And congratulations to our winners from Preen. We're actually joined live by Jez and Kimberly from their team to accept the award.
Thanks, Jerry. From myself and Kim, and on behalf of Preen, thank you so much to GSK for the award and to Centrum. It's the first time Preen has entered a competition of this kind. We feel super proud to just be shortlisted, never mind to win it.
Congratulations, guys. I know the Centrum team actually cannot wait to work on perfecting the idea, working through with you guys. And we're going to get it live early next year. It's going to run as a campaign across Facebook, thanks to our partners here at Facebook, and also actually a range of other diversity-focused media owners, thanks to some of the support from our friends at Brand Advance. So yeah, we'll follow up with the Preen guys, or my colleagues at GSK will follow up with the Preen guys, and we're going to make that happen. Now, that's some fantastic awards that really inspire new creativity. And building on that, I'm going to hand back over to Lucy, who you just met in our studio for our second panel, looking at in more detail at what good LGBT inclusive representation really looks like in practice. Over to you, Lucy.
Thanks, Barry. And congratulations again to Preen. And to, of course, Gary Lewis for winning the Reimagine Award. We'll get this sent to you. And all the other winners will get them sent to you. So as you've just met, Jez, creative director from Preen, the high of winning. Congratulations. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, Lucy.
And Tamara Littleton, I'd like to introduce, founder and CEO of Social in 2002, now a global agency, working with leaders like Visa, Oreo, Peloton, Dr. Pepper, helping them to sort of really connect with their audiences and social media. She's also a very visible queer leader in the field and entrepreneur in the industry. Also a co-founder of the Series Q for LGBTQ plus network of startups, which is amazing. And last but not least, I'd like to introduce Asad, who is founder and CEO of the Unmistakeables, a consultancy working with the likes of Freeman or Unilever to create inclusive cultures and campaigns. Led by nuanced insights. And he's also, in his spare time, a trustee of the LGBTQ plus homelessness charity, AKT, and also was one of our great judges on the panel this year for this year's awards. So thank you all for joining. To talk about what good LGBTQ plus inclusive and advertising looks like. Of course, there's no one answer to this question. These things can be very subjective, but we'll attempt to have a good little chat about what that looks like and the considerations in it. So, and bearing in mind that positive inclusion is really thinking about who is being represented, how they're being portrayed, not only in what's shown on screen, but also how those stories are concepted and created, and the where or if they're seen, and the context in which they're consumed. So, the previous panel, lovely, cover a bit off why it matters, so I won't dwell on that. When it's really hard to ignore that when 1 in 5 people don't feel seen, regardless of whether LGBTQ members or not, it's something that everyone needs to pay attention to. And I think it's worth reflecting on the real breadth of entries that we had from the public nominations for the done work, but also the proactive ones that everyone did for the Creative Awards we mentioned for Reimagine and the Accelerator Award, as you did, Jess. And Asad, it was really great having you as a judge this year. And, we saw there was over 200 entries and there was a lot to go through. And we had a really great debate about the shortlist, which took a lot of whistling down. But we were struck by the volume of examples that really showed how relatively easy it was to and add more inclusive. And if we have a look at the Reimagine Award slide, you can see recap from the winner. Essentially, it's reimagining the Häagen-Dazs. Here we go. Reimagining the Häagen-Dazs ads of a few years old, and all they did was switch out the protagonist. So we thought this really epitomised, but arguably also enhanced the original.
Yeah, we did, Lucy, and I think the question of how you get this right is a really difficult one, because there's no two people will necessarily agree on it, but there are perhaps some principles and things that people can have in place to do it. And I think what we really liked the Haagen-Dazs one, and it was interesting around the room with the judges, because I think everyone took different things from it. But what people really liked was how bold it was, and actually it was an ad that people knew. We talked a lot about, can you tell that these two women are indeed together? Are they a couple? Or could it be any kind of other relationship? And when you have to go into those questions and think about it, the kind of unanimous thinking around the table was, yes, we could see that. We could see how bold it was, how striking it was. And it was the creativity through which that was done that really shone through. So I think it was a really deserved winner. But again, just the discussion as judges and actually the critiquing of work isn't something that always gets to happen, but it's great that Ouvertising really encourages that. I remember back in the day to now, just really encouraging looking at the work, thinking about it retrospectively, saying, well, what's good about that? Why is it good? And what can we learn from that in the future?
Yeah, and to that point, I think it's worth maybe pulling up the two highly commended entries, which depict, I might just describe the Tiffany ad, which depicts and uses the genderqueer sign as a ring, where they normally just have their diamond rings boldly into their palette, and the Barbie, building off their platform there, which is already established and really showing and diversifying representation of women, but just moving that step forward to infer queerness in the picture. And actually, I remember you bringing up that, wondering whether they're really couple or friends, and does that matter?
and that was quite fascinating, because I think with the 1 minute briefs, there's a reliance on stock photography, there's a reliance on what's already out there, and that's where some of the processes haven't quite caught up with the ambitions that people have. So when you look at, and we know this, that when media or when images are tagged necessarily, they're not always tagged in the likeness of what they could be. So we looked at the Barbie image and thought, well, could that be two sisters or two friends? How do you necessarily know? So that was interesting there. And we were kind of thinking, are we still in an age of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, or can we be more overt about how we see couples? And I think with the Tiffany genderqueer ring, it was a really clever, creative, and it was one of those things where not everyone knows what the plus is after LGBT plus and all the different monikers, flags, symbols that with that. So we quite like the bravery of that. But I think why the Haagen-Dazs one went through was because it was such an iconic image. And I think in the question of, well, how do you get this right? And what is it about? It's thinking, well, is it really obvious? And sometimes I think when you're constrained by what you can get in stock photography, you're going to be beholden to what's already out there versus the new wave. And we see this in loads of different areas, whether it's race, whether it's disability, that the processes in the stock hasn't kept up with the ambitions.
Yeah. And as Kate in the BT acknowledged, it's impressive what they managed to achieve in 24 hours without any of these resources, really. And there's a lot of people that are building on that. We might touch on that in the next panel. But it's just an example of how you can show female queerness in a different way without being, sexualizing it or overtly, definitely signposting these are two lesbians or bisexuals or
Well, I'd love to hear what Tamara thinks of it, because Tamara wasn't in the judging room, but actually, like as a point of view and seeing some of that work, I'd just love to know what you think, Tamara.
Yeah, I was really encouraged about how it felt like it's gone to another level. It's not just a case of, stick a pride flag on it, a rainbow flag everywhere. It felt like there was a lot more thought, great sort of copywriting. And I think a very, very worthy winner, very clever, just that sort of subtle, twist of the ad. And the Barbie one, I think, was so encouraging in that I appreciate what you're saying about it. It's open to interpretation, but that's okay as well, because we all kind of put what we want to into the ads. And I just think that the copywriting was good.
Yeah. And actually talking about that, about the ambiguity and stuff, Tamara, I know you recently wrote a brilliant piece about the latest, well, not the latest, that's Christmas, but the John Lewis ad of the young boy or person dancing around in their insurance ad. It'd be great to get your thoughts from that.
Yeah, it led to quite a bit of debate. And I think for me, the John Lewis insurance ad was just such a great example of advertising showing people that we don't often see. So, as you say, a young boy, or it could have been a gender non-conforming child, living their absolute best life, wearing a dress, smearing makeup everywhere, throwing glitter. And it was pulled as an ad for potentially being misleading, but it had already got a lot of flack and complaints about content, which I was kind of really depressed about. But I applaud John Lewis for that ad, because I think it would have spoken to people in different ways, and maybe some people felt more seen in that instance. And I love a hero ad like that. I think we want the backstory. We need to see intersectionality. And I love ads where the main protagonist is someone that we don't often see, like maybe the Starbucks ad with the trans man who was using his new name on the coffee cup, or it's still my favorite, it's an old one, but a good one, the older lesbian couple who eventually find love after sort of 30 years, thanks to Renault. And I love a bit of emotion. And our community, it's really great when they are the stars for a change. But I also appreciate it when we're just part of the story. So, for example, the cream egg ad, when there was two guys eating a cream egg that was kind of pretty much looking like they were kissing. And also, you might remember the Wrigley ad once lockdown was finishing again, and at that time, and there were loads of sort of people in that ad, but there were same-sex couples just as part of the story. So for me, it's kind of that good representation sometimes it just means turning up and being seen. We don't have to be the stars all the time.
I was just going to add to what you said, Tamara, because the Renault advert really made me remember some of the backlash that came off the back of it. I remember in an interview, someone asking me, well, does this mean that only lesbians drive Renaults? And actually, like, what was the response like? And when we were chatting before, you were saying that often it's like holding on to the backlash. Like, that's what good representation looks like, because you're standing by it beyond the ads that not everyone thinks about.
Yeah, I mean, I always sort of think it's that some smarter person than me talked about equality not being a pie. Just because we have a piece of the pie doesn't mean we take the whole pie, or I can't remember the phrase, but you know what I'm saying is just because that a lesbian couple was represented in that Renault ad doesn't mean that it's totally excluding everybody else. It's just that we don't really, the fact that I've remembered one ad from several years ago must say that we don't see many lesbians being the stars.
I mean, and the Renault ad actually won last year, one of our awards, because we loved it. And they as a brand, that was their hero piece. It wasn't just a round pride ad or anything. They really invested it, broadcasted it across the country, across different formats and across idents, really invested into the hero piece, and they really deserved that. And I think we've also talked about, brands need to really back up if they're going to do these things, to be prepared to back it up and have a strategy about that. I know, Tamara, you work with them with many on social media, and about how, you've got to have that, be on the front foot and be prepared to defend your work. So it's interesting when you say, you love John Lewis creating that ad, but it's also sad that it's got pulled.
And it did get a lot of backlash. I mean, with my agency, The Social Element, we spend a lot of time looking at the backlash on social media and the community comments, and there was a backlash around that one. And when we work with clients like HSBC and Oreos, for example, when they do amazing campaigns that are part of Pride or around trans rights, for example, they do get a backlash. But I think the key thing is about preparation, and we often do crisis management and sort of scenario planning, and actually come up with a plan of people are going to be against this, so you have to sort of be ready to sort of make sure that the comments, you can't just sort of land an ad and then just hope for the best, because the comments in Instagram end up looking like a digital version of Squid Game, quite frankly. So I think it's just really important to protect your consumers online as part of the entire campaign all year.
I think, as you were saying, just on the John Lewis commercial as well, Tamara, I think that the fact that they were trying, I know it has polarized opinion, that commercial, for obvious reasons, I mean, for me, what I took away from it was, it was a joyful ad of this little boy dancing and expressing himself. And, the fact that John Lewis were trying and pushing boundaries, and, in some respects, maybe they didn't get it quite right. But the idea that brands continue to try and represent in the right way is a good thing, and it comes from a good place. And I'd hate to think that, brands are playing it safe with the fear of not doing the right thing, because I think that's almost worse in a way. So, it's open to interpretation, isn't it, the John Lewis thing? It's polarized, but everyone's talking about it. So,
I just, as you were talking, one thing that it made me think was, I think some brands could be at risk of cashing in on the culture war and on this divisiveness, and actually to extend your paid campaign into some kind of earned and create the storylines around it can be quite insensitive. And so I think a route through is to involve the right communities as part of the process, whether that's bringing in a network of people that could do that. That's something that we do at the Unmistakeables, or whether it's working with those internal groups that have the on the ground experience, and that those internal groups have to live within an internal culture that works and allows people to bring that to work. And that's where you see the real success. I think that's why the TUC campaign was so powerful, because we thought actually for the TUC to do something like that, it has to be backed in something that's probably actually happened, and you build the story from that. I think advertisers that rely on this world that you're trying to create, those days have gone. It's this is what's really happening today, and how do we amplify and tell a really good story? And when it comes to LGBT representation, I think it's finding that nugget, the kernel, and then expanding it.
Yeah, no, I mean, gosh, we could talk about it all day, all these, but I mean, if there's one sort of thought from all of us of what good what inclusive advertising looks like, whether it's an insight or learning or thought, what would you share or say to people? Because Jez, I mean, you obviously won an entry and it's been great, and you were mentioning there about the fear and how to overcome and stuff. But I mean, what's your key takeout?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we have to keep trying. We have to keep testing. We have to keep learning, and what good representation looks like, and we'll get better at it. And eventually, I feel like it will be the norm, and it will become second nature in our comms. For us as an agency, for Preen as a video production agency, it's about hiring the right people, making our workforce more diverse. And that enriches the storytelling and the ideas that we bring to the table, because it comes from within. It's not just us kind of interpreting it as outsiders. So that's very much what we're about. We're about not just putting out talent in front of the camera. It's about the talent behind the camera as well, so that we have a really informed view of it. So that's my biggest takeout. Just keep testing, learning, and good representation will get better at it. So
great. And Tamara, have you got a quick tip or thought?
I would just sort of say to brands, please keep trying. Be brave. Experiment, stick to your brand values even when you are under attack, and be radically inclusive.
Yeah, and Asad, have you got a?
Yeah, I think it's look through the process. So I think lots of people think that it's just going to happen at casting, or it's just going to happen at one point in the ad development process. It starts way higher up, and actually a lot of the time it starts at product development outside of when you get the ad brief. So that's where advertising could be pushing, rather than following trends, perhaps trying to make trends again.
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, what it good looks like is behind the scenes. But it's always written authenticity. And Tamara, your point about Green, make sure it's authentic. You back it up with your brand, and that's what we really champion. But just check yourself and keep educating and trying. So thank you so much. I think we're tight on time, and I'm about to hand back to Jerry. And thank you so much for joining, and
thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.